Good morning. What a morning it is, Phil. But yes, welcome to the Sunday Blether. It's the Bhoycie Bus. And as always, this bus is bang on time at 11 o'clock. And as always, I'm joined by my blethering brother, Phil McGinley. How you doing, mate?
I'm absolutely great, mate. Nice and fresh this morning, up early. So I watched an F1 race because it was on at a stupid time. So I've been up for a wee while, but yeah, I'm eager to get talking about this because quite a lot to digest. I think Fergus McCann once famously said with Celtic, it's not always easy, but it's certainly worthwhile. And I think that definitely applies to yesterday because definitely wasn't easy, but in the end, it was definitely worthwhile.
What a ride, mate. What a ride. And we will get talking about that today. And we will be joined by one of our other regular Sunday blethering brethren. That is Regan Stevenson. I think he'll be on around about 11:15. So look out for Regan jumping on. But before we do all that good stuff, give us a like, give us a share, slag the lack of hair. I've decided to. I didn't lose a bet yesterday, but I thought, if Joe Hart saves the penalty today, I'll shave my head. So I shaved my head. So, yes, like the hair. Become a Bhoycie Bus member for a small cost of $1.99. All the content is free. There's no added extras. It's just the way to help support the podcast and the bus and all that jazz. And a big shout out to piesports.com as well. Jump on there, get your tasty pastry treats for 12.5% off at the checkout with Bus 1888. I think that's all that good stuff out the way. Phil, now, yesterday. Where to start with yesterday? Well, I was working yesterday. So, however, I luckily enough had a good set of clients in that I like the football. I always gauge on who's in, whether it's acceptable to have the iPad out while we're cutting their hair. But we had plenty of Celtic fans in yesterday. We even had an Aberdeen fan in the chair whilst they scored their last minute equaliser, which we can get on to that. I was very close to also shaving his head. I'll tell you that one for certain. I even had a few Rangers fans in yesterday giving it big licks. So it gave me a weird perspective of watching the game, Phil. I think that's why I'm a bit calm about it all. And I know you're very calm about it all as well. And I know there's been a lot of uproar and disgust and mixed emotions and online since yesterday, but because of the circumstances of trying to be professional as possible while watching the football, while cutting people's hair, whilst having Aberdeen fans in my chair giving me shit the whole game, I had to watch it very calmly, and I felt like I had a completely different outlook. I actually quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game. I thought it was a very, pretty open, back and forth, like exciting game, and I couldn't be my usual absolute foaming at the mouth raging self while watching it. So, like I said, after the game, I was pretty chilled. I was pretty chilled about the whole thing. But you were at the game, Phil. You were there.
I was.
You experienced the real deal, the real atmosphere of what was going on at Hampden yesterday, and I can't wait to break it down with you. So take it away. Take it away.
Okay. See where to start. An absolute, as I said in the title, a Slobberknocker, an absolute humdinger. And I'm sure for the neutrals watching, it probably was a hell of one of those good adverts for Scottish football. But yeah, as you can imagine, being in the Celtic end, it was quite uncomfortable at times. Obviously, first and foremost, I am just delighted that we are through at this stage of the season with what's on the line. My whole ethos from now to the end of the season is I really don't care how we win as long as we win games. I understand people's frustrations, totally get it. I can understand the anger and whatnot regarding the performance, and I can see where they're coming from regarding a bit of worry from now to the end of the season. But as long as we just find a way, obviously the transfer window from January is long gone. We can't do anything now. There are no transfer windows. Nothing's going to happen in terms of the manager's not going to get changed and whatnot. This is the team that we have got from now to the end of the season, and we as fans have to just get behind them and will them over the line however we can. And it's yesterday in terms of what happened. There's a couple of things that we will be talking about today that can change, that we can definitely change tactically. There's a certain person in the starting 11 that came in yesterday after being out injured. Came back in, and he's definitely the one that most people are pointing fingers at. That is one that is something we probably can look to change between now and the end of the season. But overall, yesterday in the stadium, it was a weird atmosphere as well, I'll tell you that, for being the whole palaver about the lack of Aberdeen fans, the lack of Aberdeen ticket sales. They were definitely making a lot more noise at times. I think Celtic fans, we were shell-shocked at times at what we're seeing. The lack of equalisers, which, funny enough, we've seen a few times this season, a similar pattern. A cross comes in from our right-hand side to the back post, which would be our left-hand side. And the left side of defence have gone to sleep. We've seen it happen against Motherwell. We've seen it happen against Kilmarnock. We've seen it happen twice yesterday. 2 identical goals. A cross comes in for the right where we've not shut them down. And yeah, the left side of the defence have gone to Pot, Taylor and Scales. That would be their area to keep their eye on. But again, I say there's so much for us to digest. I suppose we should just start from the very start. And obviously, Majowski scores right away, just minutes into the game. And again, it was a weird, surreal atmosphere when they scored. Me personally, I was just kind of like sort of shrugged my shoulders, rolled my eyes, and like, this is a minor inconvenience. Because again, it's 2 minutes into the game. I'd be more worried if there was 2 minutes left in the game. 2 minutes in, it was just like one of these weird. What even happened there? Like, you didn't even have a time to take it in. You know, I've seen it back initially. Again, this is probably what VAR has done to the game. Because the first thing that I said after it, once the Aberdeen players were off celebrating, I turned to my dad and I went, well, VAR is obviously going to check it, because the way it looked and how easy it was to fed it through, you just thought, the VAR is going to look at it, he's going to be offside, surely. But no, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was onside.
I looked at the replay again, and just the defence have just switched off. It's a good through ball. He's just found that channel, just played it perfectly through. Majowski's timed his run well, and he scored. And but then after that, like, with the first half performance, it was just a lot of possession for Celtic with no real end product. We do get the goal when an Aberdeen defender switches off. Kyogo, of course, nicks the ball off him, goes in, it gets blocked, it comes back out. Nicholas Kuhn's there for the second ball, which is ideal. You should always be looking to follow up as an attacker. But again, because of what VAR has done to ruin football at times, what's going through my head? They're going to look at that Kyogo incident and probably pull it back for a foul, which, of course, that didn't happen as well. So, yeah, and we'll get to some VAR talking points, I'm sure, later on, because there is one that is, again, attacking phase of play, David. We're going to be talking about that, I'm sure, at some point later on, because, again, there are certain fan bases out there that are showing they do not understand the attacking phase of play. But yeah, we'll get to that. Obviously, we get to the extra time that happened in. So, but yeah, for the first half initially, it was one of those, a bit of a lackluster one. But I even said in the Bhoycie Bus group chat at half time, I went, we'll go on and win this, but this whole one good half, one bad half has to stop. It's got to. We either get a good first half and a really subpar second half, or vice versa. So yesterday, I thought the first half was quite subpar, and I fully expected we'll come out in the second half and we'll turn that around and we'll just go on and win this game, and we'll just move on to the next one. But of course, there was a lot more. Brendan always talked about we'll write our own story. There was a hell of a story to be written yesterday when I was sitting there at half time. Little did I know how dramatic it was going to become.
Oh yeah, we'll break everything down and we'll go through the games. So obviously, like you touched on it, Majowski obviously got them started off very quickly with a goal within the first 2 minutes. You've touched on that already. It was a good ball by Leighton, what's his name, Clarkson.
Leighton Clarkson.
That was it was a really good ball, a good movement by Majowski. Defenders had no idea where he was, switched off right from the start, and he took his goal well. The most frustrating thing about Majowski for me is that he's not in a green and white hoop shirt now. Like, I was screaming that we signed this boy in the January. We never, of course, and he has gone on now to score, 3 or 4 goals since the January against us. Hart did get a touch on the ball, but it was not enough to stop Majowski scoring. But same as you, Phil, was in the shop, and of course I was getting big licks from everyone that was in the shop that didn't support Celtic, and I didn't move an inch, didn't bite. It's 2 minutes in, plenty of football still to play. I'm not panicking yet. I think it's safe to say, I mean, he's a class forward. He won't be at Aberdeen next season.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be at Celtic either. I think he'll get a move either to maybe a lower Premier League side, or even, you know what,
English Championship.
Well, am I right in saying how Hibs got a partnership with one of the Premier League sides. Was it Bournemouth or?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Aberdeen's the same. Is that right? I think Aberdeen got a partnership with a Premier League side too. So I could see. I can't remember who it is, but I'm sure it is Aberdeen that's got it. But I could see him going to that Premier League side. I think it's Bournemouth's definitely one of them because there's a player on loan at Aberdeen. I think he actually missed the penalty that Joe Hart saved. He's on loan from the Premier League side that they're partnered up with. Anyway, so I could see him moving on. He's a good striker. The point I'm making is, he
is good.
Like fair play. It was a good goal, but I certainly wasn't panicking. You're right, and let's touch on it now. Liam Scales.
That was the big talking point, I think, before the game.
His name's getting brought up a lot today. I think we discussed this before we came on the pod, Phil, that he's certainly peaked. He peaked quite early, and he had some good performances that I think raised a lot of eyebrows from, if not most, all of the support. Thinking, all right, okay, this is actually this guy's actually a lot better than we thought he was. Left-sided as well, for balance, yada, yada, yada. Last-ditch headers, last-ditch tackles. He's really grown as a player. Brendan Rodgers came out and said he's surprised him the most in his entire career in coaching.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that bubble's busting out, Phil. And, I mean, I understand why he came back into the starting lineup yesterday, because he has been pretty much the first choice centre-back since Narowski's injury at the start of the season. However, I can't help but feel in the last few games it's been quite obvious that he may be the weak link at the back. I know people will say that Greg Taylor is that. I know somebody on the pod certainly thinks that. However, I don't think he's anywhere near as a bomb scare as Liam Scales has been in the last few years. Last few weeks. Last few years. I think it was quite evident yesterday, but he didn't have a good game yesterday, which then evidently rubs off onto the likes of Greg Taylor. Didn't have the support from his centre half. I don't know what your thoughts are on Scales, but I mean, like I said, Rodgers has hung his hat on him all season, so I can understand it maybe would be a bit unlucky or a bit unfortunate or maybe unfair to drop him now that Narowski's now fit. But we signed this guy to replace Carl Starfelt.
Yeah. We
signed Lagerbielke to be another one to potentially replace Carl Starfelt. Nearly 9 million we spent on centre halves to replace Carl Starfelt, and we ended up with a boy that was halfway out to Aberdeen. He probably should have been playing in that cup final on the other side of the pitch yesterday.
Aye, that's very likely.
However, so I mean, like I said, I can see why Rodgers has kept him in the side, but I just think, I don't think Narowski did anything wrong since he's come back in to warrant not there being a decent argument to start him yesterday. Did you not? Would you agree?
I thought, I kind of expected, I said on Friday night talking about the team, I've expected Scales would come back in, but me personally, I would have just been happy to just stick with Nawrocki. I know up at Pittodrie had a bit of a bad time playing against Majowski because that goal that Bojan scores when he runs from the halfway line, pretty much with Nawrocki backing off him the entire time, and then the wee drop of the shoulder bends out of the corner. So I don't know if that weighed into Brendan's thinking of, Nawrocki's had a bit of a hard time against him before. But yeah, Scales yesterday came in. I think him and Taylor just bring out the worst in each other. The left side of defence is definitely a massive, massive concern. And it's no coincidence that majority of teams that play us now target that side of the defence as well. Yesterday Aberdeen were having a lot of joy going down that way. Then when it came to Aberdeen's attacks, they weren't attacking our right side that much. Although Alistair Johnson was doing everything in his power to make it difficult down that side with some of his choices of passing at times when he was coming forward, just giving the ball away and whatnot. So there is problems all across the back line. Carter Vickers yesterday, I've seen somebody already say in the chat about Carter Vickers was a bit of concern yesterday. See an extra time as well, man. Carter Vickers, I think he was toiling just because obviously he had a long-term injury. And, I don't think extra time was on his bingo card yesterday, but there were points yesterday where you could see late on in extra time, he was toiling, man. And but he pulled through and he got there. And I think when you see the celebrations at the end, you see what it meant to him, because he looked absolutely relieved to get there. I mean, most of the players did, but he was absolutely delighted. But yeah, the ironic bit as well is Bhoycie came on for all of 20 seconds he was on the park, and then
to go.
I know, although that is not on him at all. He's a victim of circumstance. But there was a strange irony to it, and I said that to my dad in the stadium where I saw Forrest trotting off, and Bhoycie coming on. I thought, he's just trying to show it up now. He's just going for 5 at the back for the last 2 minutes. We'll just try to see it out, and literally within 30 seconds of that, they just whip across it and score. You're like, oh, for God's sake!
I want to bring this up here, Monty. You're absolutely right. Let's not forget the good games that Scales had. I mean, let's also not forget he has been nominated as one of the player of the year for this season. So you cannot ignore. There has been a reason why he has started both games this season, and it's not all to do with the fact that there's been injuries. He did take the shirt and he made it his own, and he's given Brendan Rodgers food for thought all season, and he's stuck with them, and that's a totally fair point. But I think just in recent games, I think, put it this way, right? If that wasn't Liam Scales yesterday, and that was Carl Starfelt, you'd be wanting him hanging, like out to dry. Just like the pelters that he would get for little mistakes. A guy that didn't lose a domestic game, but would be hung out to dry for little mistakes that would lead to goals. And I think Scales was culpable of 2 goals yesterday. So that's the point I'm trying to make is, we can't forget the good performances he's had all season to merit his starts, but also I think it's fair to criticise where criticism is wanted, is what I'm saying. However, I don't want to make this all negative. This isn't like we won the game yesterday. I think that's the point that we were making at the start of the show, was that it was an absolute roller coaster. Yep. You were shattered after the game, Phil. I was shattered as well. It was just a crazy, crazy game to watch. An enjoyable game for the neutral, I'm sure. But we got the result.
There is something as well, another factor that you've got to consider as well that I think a lot of fans aren't. And I know Aberdeen have been terrible this season, right? They've had an absolute abysmal season. They should be a top 6 side every single season. They find themselves in the bottom 6. They've had managerial merry-go-rounds, all the palaver with Neil Warnock and whatnot, right? They've massively underperformed. They even took a 6-0 doing off us at one point this season, which people forget about. The way this Celtic team's played this season, we did batter Aberdeen 6-0 at one point. But yesterday, cup football is a strange dynamic at times, and some weird things can happen. They talk about the ups, the giant killers and that. The wee team rises to the occasion. Yesterday, Aberdeen went into that game. They had nothing left in their season other than this. Because I think Aberdeen will stay up. I know there's talk that they're still floating around about the relegation playoff. I think Ross County or St Johnstone will get that spot. Livingston are already away. So Aberdeen effectively have nothing left in their season. And it's just a case of they just, found the goals. Because what happened yesterday as well was something I've seen many, many times when I've went to Celtic Park this season, where the wee team comes down to Glasgow, right? I don't know if Aberdeen fans would appreciate being called a wee team and how they view themselves, but they come to Glasgow, they try and stodge it up a wee bit to waste a lot of time. And even though it's a cup game and, they're wasting time, because even when we went 2-1 up, they were still doing things like the goalkeeper was still taking ages to take goal kicks and whatnot. I've seen this all season where there's been games where we've been winning at Celtic Park, like 1-0 against Kilmarnock and whatnot, and it's in the last 10 minutes, the other team will just throw everything forward, and that's where we seem to get absolutely caught out and shell-shocked. Motherwell did it to us this season as well. Aberdeen did it as well. It got down to the last 10 minutes. As the clock was ticking down, I thought that as we got there, I thought in the last 10 minutes, they are just going to start just launching long balls to cause us all sorts of problems. Yeah. And of course they did. I mean, right before they did get their equaliser in 90 minutes, there was that chance where I think it's Hoylett sticks it over the bar. They get a break and it's threaded through to him and he takes a bit of a bad touch away to the left. Joe Hart closes him down, but he blasts it over the bar. So that was like a scare right there. So that was within the last 10 minutes where that came from a long ball where they just launched it forward and there was a bit of panic at the back. It happened to bounce fortuitously through to them. I say they missed. So that's what they did yesterday. It was just one of them. They just hung in there till the last 10 minutes of the game and then just went gung-ho. And how they forced extra time out of it. And obviously they did it again in extra time. They just, once it goes to penalties, of course, it's in the laps of the gods. But you've got to remember, Aberdeen yesterday had to just go for it. And
they had nothing to lose, Phil.
They had nothing to lose.
At that
Dangerous
point,
team with nothing to lose.
At 2 points in the game, with obviously the two equalisers in the 90th minute and in the 119th minute or whatever they scored, there's nothing more dangerous than somebody that's got nothing to lose, right? That's been said over multiple years. Nothing more dangerous than somebody that's got nothing to lose. And they had nothing to lose. They were heading out. Their season's over. I mean, I don't think they'll be relegated, but there is a chance. So they have that to worry about. And then obviously there looks like they're heading into a cup. They have absolutely nothing to lose. So they went for it. And we've shown this season that we have struggled to deal with these sort of last minute crosses into the box. Now, Marc, one of our very own Marc Cairney, the judge, is in the chat today, and he's by the way, he's spot on, because when you look back at both goals, they came down the right hand side where Alistair Johnson was nowhere to be seen. Like, there was so much space, especially for the equaliser in 90 minutes. That boy had so much space and so much time to whip that ball into the box. And I thought it was an excellent crossing. I mean, it was just bread and butter for a good for a decent player to get up there and put their head on it, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm not going to point the blame at solely just one player for not dealing with it. Twice there was they had the opportunity to take their time and just get it into the box, and they know, and we've shown all season and seasons in the past that we don't deal well with crosses into our own box, and we were punished for it. So you're right, fair play, but Aberdeen, they had nothing to lose and they went for it, and we just and that's right. You said they are a good side. There's no way they should be in the bottom six. They've had a horrendous season. They had a publicity stunt to a manager come in that was purely for his own benefit. And by the way, can I just say I couldn't stop laughing when I realised that their striker was Junior Hoylett. That
was a Neil Warnock special. That one for the short time he was there.
That fucker come up to Aberdeen we'll have a holiday together, and he fucks up at the first chance. He's just left Junior Hoylett to play for Aberdeen. I couldn't stop laughing at it.
It caused us all sorts of problems. Fair play.
He did, because he was a good player back. He's been around for years. But let's move. Let's talk about another moment in the game, Phil, and that was James Forrest coming on.
Yes.
And it was one of those. Well, I'm sure there must have been a few people in the audience that felt, in the crowd, that it's just part of the show, guys. When they see James Forrest come on, you're thinking, I can't believe it's 2024. We're having to rely on James Forrest coming on, because did he replace Yang? Yeah, because he was god awful, wasn't he? He was god. He was poor. We can talk about that in a minute if you like. But I turned around to I was cutting. It was the Aberdeen fans that were in the chair. It was actually his 9-year-old son was in the chair. I was cutting his hair, and he was sitting on the waiting bench behind. I turned around to him and I went, "Can you believe this?" I was like, 2024, we're bringing James Forrest on to try and play you lot. And then I turned back around again, and he'd put the ball in the net before I finished. Yep. So I turned to the wee boy. I was like, "Look, that's what a real football player looks like." He's more of a Man City fan, that wee boy, but Aberdeen's his Scottish team. But I made him. I said, "That's a real football player, James Forrest." So I
never doubted him. Never doubted.
2024, he's still a fantastic player. But let's talk about James Forrest, because it is madness that in 2024, James Forrest does it again in a Scottish Cup semi-final for Celtic. Yep. What a servant to the club. No matter what you say about the guy, he's never been everybody's favourite player, but you cannot deny he does it time and time again for Celtic in big games. He's a big game player, James Forrest. No doubt about it.
You would be surprised how many fans were very much in favour of James Forrest coming on. I know what you're saying. It's 2024. How have we got to this point? Well, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at great length in the summer when we come round to the transfer window again. And the way the recruitments went, we now find ourselves in a position where, James Forrest is a viable option. He hasn't done much wrong in the performances he's put in recently coming off the bench. And at half-time yesterday, myself, my dad, the guys sitting around us, James Forrest's name was coming up a lot, more so than Luis Palma, who was also on the bench, another winger. Most fans, me included, were saying, I would trust James Forrest to come on right now than having Yang. Yang should come out in the second half, and Yang obviously stayed on for about 15 minutes or so in the second half before finally getting hooked. And unbelievably, James Forrest, 2 minutes on the park, 2 attacks, identical to each other. First one coming in from the left-hand side, gets on his right, has a shot, Aberdeen player blocks it. A minute later, the exact same attack happens, and this time he finds the net. And from where I was in the stadium, I mean, I was practically at the Aberdeen end. That's how far down I was. You know what the view's like at Hampden, abysmal. I didn't even know it hit the back of the net because of the weird bend it took, and there wasn't much power on it. He's just caught Roos out with the trajectory of the ball. So it was one of those delayed reactions, but my God, again, I just felt like this was written in the stars. Hampden is his own personal playground. If you actually look at his record at Hampden, there was a period where we had like 3 League Cup finals in a row where he scored in the League Cup final as well. And it was like Hampden just seems to be everybody coming on when Ange was in charge. We were playing St Johnstone in a semi-final, and we were struggling that day. And James Forrest popped up with the winner. Hampden is just a place he just seems to know how to get it done. It's quite a weird thing, but it's quite sad that didn't end up being the winning goal in the end. But there was sort of a bit of a fairy tale to it that he comes on and does that. But it's quite incredible. I wonder what Yang must have been thinking going off, sitting on the bench, just seeing his Celtic career just flashing before. I say his career. What career? He's been here for a cup of coffee, essentially. But yeah, just seeing it flash before his eyes that James Forrest comes on, and in the 2 minutes that he's been on the park, he's already done more than what you did in the entire time you were on. And James Forrest was also crucial in our third goal because he plays that nice ball through that Alistair Johnson gets on at the end of, cuts it back on the byline, to which Matt really scores. So he was involved in 2 goals as well in the build-up to the second. So a good contribution. So it's just a bit annoying that he got sacrificed for the whole, we're going to try and shore it up in the last couple of minutes, and that backfired on us. But what an impact. Fair play to the lad. But he's definitely not the answer long term. He, I said this on Friday night. I went, look, James Forrest should definitely be, given his retirement watch and sent on his way in the summer. Thanks for everything, James. Honestly, thank you for everything because you've done a lot for this club. But we have to be looking to move on and from him. But hey, if he can finish the season by helping us win a double, then what a way to finish it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sort of quickly bring up Martin Weir's comment. Forrest coming up against again does show his fitness level, what they say. So I don't know if I subscribe to that, Martin. I don't know if it was anything to do with his fitness. I think it was more just to try and shore things up. Like we said earlier, I don't think it was a case of we need to take him off because he's knackered.
A few people say in the chat that he apparently picked him up. In the stadium, I didn't know. I just genuinely thought he's just taking somebody off just to get Nawrocki on, just to try and see it out.
Yeah, that's what I actually get. I mean, like I said, I was trying to watch the game whilst dealing with clients for the whole game, pretty much. So a lot of the time, I was my head was really turning to the iPad when there was comments being made that there was something about to happen. So I mean, I might have missed it. It might have been an injury, or like you said, maybe it was blowing at his arse. But from what I gathered, when I seen it, I thought to myself, this is just to shore things up because we've already shown previously that we were looking pretty vulnerable. Another comment here I'll bring up: the Yang experiment must end now. He will cost points. Well, he already has.
Yeah,
he already has. In the Rangers game, I felt. But we're not going to go over whole ground. It's done. It's in the past.
Yeah,
Hakuna Matata and all that. But yeah, I don't know, man. He's one of those players that when you see him come in and you go, he's the kind of player that we like. He's quick, he's tricky, he's young, he's a winger. Everything that we like as Celtic fans. I think we all do want to will the boy on.
Yeah. But
it's getting really, really hard. Really, really hard, Phil. Like, he's not up for these big games. He's just not. Like, he was shown how inexperienced he was when it came to Champions League. Like, he was proper out his depth there. He looked a bit out his depth at Ibrox. I mean, he had plenty of chances, I felt, to make an impact in that game, and he didn't do it in a positive way. And again, he just a few buzz cuts yesterday, Dave. By the way, when that just quickly off a tangent, just because Alan brought this up, when they got that equaliser, the Aberdeen fan, it was the older guy, it was neither the wee boy anymore, it was the dad. He was going wild in my chair, and I was like, you fucking
Tempted
bastard.
to just go right
Oh,
in
you
there
have
with a
no
couple.
idea. I says, you're lucky, mate. Like, I'm not shaving your head right now because you did calm down after that. But yeah, there was a few buzz cuts were coming Don's fans' way yesterday, Alan, I'll tell you that. But yeah, back to Yang. He looked out his depth again yesterday. It's a big Scottish, it was like was that his debut in the Scottish Cup? Was that
I feel like he must have played at some point earlier in this tournament.
I
He
don't
must have
know.
at some point.
Either way, he certainly didn't look. He certainly didn't look up for it. Yes, he was poor yesterday, and that's why we're having the big change.
I still think about the game at McDermott Park just before the turn of the year, where I don't think he knew what the offside rule was. I think he was offside by about 10 yards at one point in one of the moments, and it's like, my God, did he get hooked off at half time? In fact, Brendan did the post-match interview that day where he was really. Did he not say something along as if it's the only time I've properly been angry at half time, like properly lost the rag with the team? And then he talked about players that, shouldn't be getting a game here. And then Yang disappeared at the first team for a wee while. But of course, injuries have now allowed Yang to get back in a wee bit. But he's had a couple of fleeting appearances this season where he's looked all right, not too bad. But mostly he's just so raw at the moment. And I said it earlier on, I just want us to just win games by any means necessary. And we just need to go with whatever gets us over the line. I don't think Yang is the type of player that we can really trust at this point with what is on the line right now.
Yeah, he can't be. It's disappointing, man, is because I think there is a player there. Like he won. Is he not like he won like Korea's Young Player of the Year? I don't know what the measure is there, but I'm sure. And like he did look good. He looked good just before Tynecastle, and the Tynecastle game was just a nightmare for the lad. I don't know if that's totally killed his confidence a bit. Maybe he's a bit worried about him. I want to go back to that Tynecastle incident because the high boot that got him sent off. I always questioned. There was another one of our players that's quite culpable of doing that, and that's O. And I just wonder if maybe in Korea they're a bit more lenient about high boots. And I know that just seems like a total random thing to bring up, but I just think, like, has that maybe killed his confidence going like this is totally different to what it's like in Korea? Like, what do you mean I'm not allowed to try and win the ball there? Like, I just don't know if that's now it's in his head because he just doesn't look. He looked like he was starting to get somewhere, and now it's just like it crashed right back down to this really frustrating figure, and it just seems like a waste of a jersey. Like, and obviously we missed Maeders yesterday and his defensive work rate as well as his press.
So he coming in with the stats. Yang has played 29 games this season. He has 1 goal and 3 assists. It's not the best of records.
That's what, man. And if that was, and we're not going to go down this route, right? But if he was one of our own from the academy, like Mickey Johnson, is he getting too much lenient because we spent money on him? If he was one of our own youth product players, I think like he'd be getting a lot more, maybe more stick. So, not that I'm saying that Mickey Johnson's the answer, by the way. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you need to tread carefully with that name.
Yeah, you bring him up. A couple of good goals at West Brom, and you think he should be starting? No, that's not what I'm saying. Anyway, let's move on. There was plenty more big talking points in the game, Phil, that you really want to sink your teeth into, and that was during the penalty shootout.
The penalty shootout.
Oh, now, hands up if you were worried about the penalty shootout. Me, I was worried about the penalty shootout.
Simply because my hand didn't go up there.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Some weird irony in me was telling me that despite the fact we are absolutely dog meat at penalties, for some reason we'll end up winning this just because I just felt it that. I was like, it'd just be typical that we're so bad at penalties. This is the thing that we all fear happening, but I just felt like, I don't know, just something in the air here that we'll just find a way. But my God, the way it ended, the drama, please no Celtic, please not again. That was crazy.
No, I was because just like I said, like we've missed half of the penalties that we've been awarded this season, so I was a bit like, this ain't going to go down so well, But hey, I was wrong again, as always. So I'm happy to admit that, and I'm very pleased that I was wrong. But fuck me, that was some drama. That was some drama. And of course, there was been a lot of talk about a certain Joe Hart taking a penalty and how it's been the words of arrogance has been used and ridiculous has been used and should be nowhere near taking a penalty. What's he doing? I mean, I didn't have a problem with Joe Hart taking a penalty at all. I mean, at no point did I go, "What the fuck's he taking a penalty for?" Because I'll take you back to 2015. It was a friendly game, to be fair, in Australia against Roma, but he took a penalty for Man City. And I think it was like an Australian Cup tour or whatever. So not quite the same level of pressure on him, I'll give you that. But he certainly took a fantastic penalty. He went to, he shot down his left-hand side, it was at top bins left. And it was a belter. And it's even come up a few times on Instagram over the years and YouTube and like best penalties ever taken, all these kind of videos. And it's a cracking penalty. He took it with conviction, confidence, and his usual little sort of smirky wee self at the end after he'd done it. So I had no issues with him taking a penalty. I actually had more issues with him trying to save a penalty than taking one, if I'm honest, yesterday. However, he hit the post. The keeper didn't save it. He didn't blast it wide. He was very unfortunate that it came off the post. And of course, that then turned the whole crowd into raptures about like, oh my God, what was he taking a penalty for, Phil? How did you feel about Joe Hart taking a penalty yesterday? Was it? Did you feel it was? Did you feel there was a bit of arrogance there, or like he should? Was there a real reason behind it? A good reason behind it, other than just Joe Hart has to take one because he's just there.
I wouldn't say it was arrogance. I just felt again like
I
just felt like there was something just written in the stars that it was just set up for this. One of these weird divine intervention moments where that Aberdeen player happens to miss. It's now a case of the next penalty getting scored would win it for us, and it just so happened that Joe Hart was the one that was going to be taking it. Because as I am led to believe that before a penalty shootout starts, the referee is informed of who the takers are and what order they'll be in. The referee gets told that. Because in the stadium, there was quite a bit of confusion. I was down at the end that the penalties were taken. In fact, I was right in line with the penalty spot. I had an incredible view of it, right? And when Aberdeen obviously missed, and then you're waiting for the next Celtic player to come forward for the centre circle, right? And there was this like weird pause where nothing was happening. And of course, we'd had that incident just a couple of moments before with Aberdeen keeper was down injured. So you're wondering, is something going on here? Is a bit tight? Is there some sort of gamesmanship going on? Is some time wasting again? What's happening here? And then it started to realise when Joe Hart's just standing there with the ball in the middle, and then the penny dropped, that he's taking the next penalty. So in my mind, all I'm thinking in my head is, the headlines here. This is just fell perfectly to say it's arranged beforehand for. He's going to take it. It's not been decided on a whim that he's taking it. But obviously people are questioning why would he be taking one in the first place? It's a penalty from 12 yards out. Goalkeepers can strike a ball. You're simply striking a ball from 12. If you actually look at the penalty itself, the worst penalty that we hit yesterday was Bernardo's, which did still go in. Joe Hart's penalty is perfectly fine. He gets decent power on it. He puts it down to that corner. Their goalkeeper isn't getting anywhere near it. He just happens to hit the post. Roberto Baggio once missed a penalty in a World Cup final, stuck it over the bar. He was a Ballon d'Or holder at that point. It happens. It just so happens.
Somebody has to miss one, Philly. Somebody has to miss a penalty. It's going to happen. There
is a tactical side to it, because goalkeepers are always prepared for penalty shootouts with who they're going to be coming up against, right? I remember a few years back, a game that we don't like to remember, right? But when Rangers beat us in the semi-final in 2016, the penalty shootout game, there was something that happened. I don't know if the cameras ever picked it up at the time, but in the stadium, every time Craig Gordon was, obviously he was in goal, and he'd go and stand at the side when it was a Celtic player to hit it. Every time he went over to the side, he'd pick up Wes Fotheringham's Lucozade bottle and throw it away. And Fotheringham would trot over and get it back, because Fotheringham had all the names of all the Celtic players written on it of where they usually put a penalty. A lot of goalkeepers do this in the modern day, where their bottles at the side in their goal, they've got notes on it of where players usually put penalties. Do you know who's somebody that won't be written on a bottle? A goalkeeper. Because goalkeepers you would never really see a goalkeeper take a penalty. So how do you know where he's going to put it? It's one of these tactical things. I remember in the Euros in 2016, Italy and Germany were playing, and Italy got a penalty in the game, and Leonardo Bonucci stepped up and took the penalty, and he scored it. And when asked afterwards, Antonio Conte was asked, why did you get Bonucci to take the penalty? And it was because he's never taken a penalty in his career, so Manuel Neuer wouldn't have known where he was going to put it, where's his normal spot to go. So there is tactical reasons as to why Joe Hart's. I don't think it was arrogance. I think it was decided he's taking the penalty. Roos will not have any idea where Joe Hart's going to put this penalty. You know, it's not something he would have studied, because all the outfield players, you might get an idea. They've taken penalties in the past before. This is where they'll go. I just think it just happened to the way it fell. And he was unlucky, because I think his penalty was very well struck. It just happened to hit the post. And that's how he goes. And then, of course, he ended up being the hero in the end anyway. Just the way things went yesterday, he would eventually save it. Because that's another narrative as well, is Joe Hart never saves penalties. I believe he saved one in Feyenoord when we still lost the game anyway, so people forget about it. It didn't really mean anything in the end. So, of course, we're then pinning our hopes on he's got to save one. He has to save one for us to win this. And he did in the end. And it was just an emotional roller coaster. But I don't hold anything against him having him take a penalty in the 5. I generally don't. I feel like you're striking a ball for 12 yards out. Goalkeepers can use their feet. It's not totally alien to them, the concept of kicking a ball. So to me,
it's all the time in training.
Well, as you said, yeah. So to me, I'm not as like. I understand fans, question it and the frustrations around it. But for me personally, if you're asking me, I'm generally like, it happened. It is what it is. We did get the win in the end. Before the penalty shootout, the referee is informed of who's taking them, and it just so happened that he was put in a position, because Aberdeen missed, that he could have scored the winner. And yeah, it just so happened that he didn't get the winner in the end, but he did manage to steal the headlines at the end of it all, because Celtic it's not easy, but it's definitely worthwhile.
I'm just looking at the comments because there's a lot coming in on this one, and one in particular. I'll give you the wee Davy Low grub, Steve-O. Steve-O is very much under the impression that it was seen as that it was arrogant. I'm not going to. The comments are there if you want to read them. I'm sure you're all engaging with them. Anyway, but one of the points that he makes is that there's a full team to choose from. Why is he taking one? Well, I don't. This is the thing. We've seen how many people and how many players in our squad miss penalties this season.
Loads.
And Joe Hart has openly said that he always puts himself forward for taking penalties. He always has done.
Mm-hmm.
And Brendan's agreed to let him take one. Now, I just don't. Well, because is it seen as arrogant? Yes, it has been seen as arrogant by some people. For me, I don't think it's arrogance. I think it's just a case of it just so happens to have landed on Joe Hart to take it when we've got the sudden death. All the other players have taken the first. Would it have been seen as arrogant if Joe Hart went up and took the first penalty? I mean, was it a case of, oh, well, he wants to take the glory of being the winning penalty taker?
I just think it fell that way.
I just think it just fell on him that way. I think it's just purely fell on him that way. Now, arrogance is there's a fine line between arrogance and cockiness and confidence as well. And like you can look at let's look at Emilio Martinez from the other night, Aston Villa goalkeeper, the hero for them, hero for Argentina in the World Cup, and what he does in a penalty shootout, people will have split opinions on it being arrogance or just. It's just his game plan. It's his tactic. It's just who he is. It's brilliant. That's why he's the best goalkeeper in the world at the minute, according to some. I would say that's more of an arrogance than anything. Like, if he was to take a penalty and miss it, would the whole opinion of him of what he's done in penalty shootouts change? I don't know. I think people are just looking into it way more than it needs to be. Like I said, if he'd scored the penalty, then we wouldn't be talking about it.
And also keep in mind, you're talking about, was he looking to steal the headlines? The goalkeeper's got 5 attempts during a penalty shootout to steal the headlines because he could save a penalty in the end. So he did manage to save one, which did get him the headlines.
That doesn't mean,
Totally. So it's one of these things. It just fell that way. I'm glad you brought up Emiliano Martinez. I love his antics at penalties. It's like I wish to God,
he's just a maniac.
He's confident in himself, and fair play, man. Fair play.
Arsenal must be kicking themselves letting that boy
Oh,
go.
I know.
That's what I'll say. But quickly, I'll bring up Steve. As you're looking at the bigger picture, it maybe says something about the quality and belief in some of our
Yeah.
players. Yeah. By the way, Steve,
Two players had to step up after that because once it went to sudden death, it was like, well, now you've got to come forward. And they were good penalties.
who was left?
Awata and Johnson took the 2 penalties after that,
Yeah.
I believe it was. And Awata's one in particular, great penalty.
Jargon.
So, you know, mental.
Speaking of penalties, Phil, let's do
Oh.
we're jumping back and forward because this is
That's
what we
right.
do on Sunday Blether. We're all over the shop, and I know that some of you don't like that, but that's just how we roll. Taking you back to a penalty or a controversial, perhaps, decision in the game that Aberdeen should have been given a penalty. Phil, Cameron Carter-Vickers takes out Junior Hoylett, is it? I can't remember who it was.
It was Hoylett, I think so. Yeah, that Hoylett's the one that fouls Johnson. It's one or the other, but yeah, either way, Aberdeen player.
Either way, an Aberdeen player was fouled. And yes, you're absolutely spot on. It was a stone wall penalty. Or it would have been if it hadn't been for the clear foul on Alistair Johnson in the phase of play before that. Phil, please, for those from other fan bases who might be watching, please explain the rules of the game.
I'll do my best here, but the attacking phase of play, which obviously we learned a lot about at the derby at the new year, because obviously there was an incident where Alistair Johnson did quite clearly palm the ball out of play when it was going out to the byline. He just swatted it away. So yeah, I mean, by the rules, it's clearly a handball. It wasn't a natural hand movement. But of course, in the attacking phase of play, the build-up to the incident, if something happens that basically is an offside or a foul, that will obviously, it happened before that in the timeline, therefore it will negate anything that happens afterwards. And we saw the same thing yesterday where that cross comes in. And yeah, the Aberdeen player wipes out Alistair Johnson, goes up for the ball. And also in the stadium, I don't know, I've picked this up in real time. That Aberdeen player also led with his hand, so it could have easily grazed his fingers, and that would have been a handball as well. But in the end, he just clatters right into Alistair Johnson. There's a bit of a scramble. And yeah, Carter-Vickers, I mean, he does make contact with him. It is probably a penalty, but there was a foul right before it. Now, in the stadium, again, from my point of view, when I was watching Don Robertson during the whole palaver, right? And initially there was a groan from the Celtic fans because it was a very confusing hand movement, because he's looking right at it and he points to the spot, right? He points in that direction, but what he was pointing at was Alistair Johnson on the ground, and he was saying foul, because then his other hand points the other way, saying free kick in that direction. But initially when he pointed like that, a lot of fans were like, oh no, penalty. But they say then right away he says free kick in the other direction. Then of course the VAR check was in the stadium. It came up on the screen, VAR possible penalty check. But then the decision was foul by the attacking team. So obviously that was Aberdeen with the attacking team in that point. So yeah, it was a foul by them. So VAR even looked at it and they agreed. So Don Robertson in real time gave a free kick to us initially. He didn't give a penalty and it was overturned. He actually gave it because he was acknowledging Johnson's down, foul, free kick in that direction. And yeah, then VAR checked it. But there seems to be fan bases of other clubs absolutely spitting tacks in the last 24 hours, saying that Celtic getting all the decisions again. I've seen one tweet in particular for an angry bear saying that no game-changing decisions have gone against Celtic this season. Did he not watch their defeat at Tynecastle? Yang sent off for a bit of a dubious high boot. A handball by Awata, which was headed off of his arm by his own teammate, which in the IFAB rule says that's not a penalty. It's like, come on now, this guy ain't paying attention. It's like, you're kidding me on, mate. So absolute nonsense. So these fans have got to learn what the attacking phase of play is. It's not just cut and dry that this is the incident, this foul that happened, this is all we're going to analyse. They need to look at the build-up to it, because if something's happened in the run-up to that, an offside, a foul somewhere else, that negates it, and they don't understand it. They just don't get it. They just see the red mist, the anger of Celtic getting something going their way, and they can't handle it. It was a foul on Johnston. It was a foul every day. So.
Mm-hmm. I think the Rangers fans are raging because they know that it would have been a penalty if it was for them, because of course, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, DG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I don't want to keep bringing it up, but when I was watching the shop, I had the audio was down on the iPad, so I didn't. So all I saw was him pointing at the spot, and what added to the anxiety for me was Cameron Carter-Vickers had his head in his hands, because he knew that. Mm-hmm. fuck, I've just went right through the, But to be fair, he's not looking at the player. He's just went to clear the ball, and the boy's got in front of him, and there was contact in the box. So I was really confused at that point because I was like, fuck it, it's a penalty. Like in my mind, it's a definite penalty. But like I said, because of the context of having the audio off, I didn't hear the commentary. I didn't realise until later on why the penalty wasn't given. And I mean, you've explained it very eloquently there, Phil.
Do my best.
Excellent. We're all informed now as to why. But yeah, that's pretty much the most back and forward post-match piss you're going to get from us today. We've got 10 minutes left to discuss. How we all feeling? Because I've got two questions for you, Phil. There's two narratives we can go for this, because a lot of people feel like it was a bit of a bang average performance yesterday, which, yeah, okay, I could agree with that. But we got the result. We ground out the result. So, was that a performance of champions that know how to get a result, Phil? Or is it a sign there that there's still a bit of work to do to make sure we wrap up this title? Because I think there's probably an argument for both there.
Yeah,
it definitely was a championship performance of grinding out a result, but there's a lot of there's a few more potholes we need to avoid, I think, for the next last five seasons on this bus.
Yeah, definitely. We're obviously in a good position right now. The improbable double, is still on the table. It's still there to be won. The dynamic as well can change massively. Yes, that performance yesterday was worrying. I can understand a lot of fans saying, if we play like that in the final, we'll end up getting beat. So I do fully expect it'll be Rangers in the final. I don't expect Hearts will do much today, despite Stephen A. Smith saying things like, I feel Rangers have been lucky against us in all the games this season. Was that right? When they beat you 5-0 at Ibrox.
Look at you're in charge, mate.
Yeah. Let's see you go and show that one, Stephen A. Smith. Let's see. But I fully think it's Rangers. But you got to remember the dynamic in the cup final. See if we do go on and win this league, right? And of course, we are in a position to do it. We will be buzzing going into that final, and their spirit will be broken. We saw how broken they are this week with the Dujon Stirling comments, where he's kind of lifted the lid up and shown that all is not well in the Rangers dressing room. Clement's had to obviously clap back, where sort of slapping him down essentially and saying, yeah, he lacks experience and he didn't handle that very well. And it's like, it kind of shows you that just after a couple of stuttery results, their spirit is broken. We obviously do have to get the job done. Brendan Rodgers, to me, is giving off the right vibe, where he asked about Rangers' recent dip in form, and he just said it's about what we do from now to the end of the season. We just need to keep concentrated on us. And I think we will. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty. I'd love it if we went out and just tanked every one of these teams like 5-6-0. That'd be fantastic. I think there will be some ugliness to it, but I do think, like yesterday, we will just find a way. And in the summer, we'll regroup and we'll just need to address it then. Whether the board actually do something about it, I'd like to think they will, because they cannot genuinely sit there, look at how this season pans out, even if it is a double at the end of the season, and go, everything's fine. It's all right. Everything's okay. We don't worry. You can't allow that to happen, because we won't get away with it again. We're in a great position about December time, 11 points in front at one point. We've allowed them to come right back into it. It looks like we've just got our noses in front just now, so the advantage is with us. So if we get there, you can't allow that to happen again. So it has to change massively in the summer. With Lawwell Jr. leaving and the chief scout leaving, this next move, Celtic, what are you going to do next? Show us what the progressive move is, how you're going to shake it up, what the recruitment's going to be like. But again, this is all things that we'll deal with in summer. For now, this is the squad and this is the manager we've got to the end of the season. Yes, some of the players definitely aren't up to the standard. There's a lot of fans that definitely still don't like the manager and want him out. But as it stands right now, as Celtic fans, we just need to get behind them, will them over the line, and we'll see what happens in the summer.
No, I totally agree. I'm pretty confident we'll go on and win the league now. I think it's safe to say that the other side don't feel so confident that they can still claw this back. I know there is a lot of concern still from our fans to say, well, we have shown this season that we've struggled to put 5 wins in a row together, or 6 wins in a row together. How do we plan on navigating this to the end of the season? There's still a chance we could slip up. But when I speak to Rangers fans that have been coming in the shop this week, every single one of them said, well, that's just handed the title back to us. That's just that. Well, not bad. That's the title. Back to you guys again. We fucked it. Not one of them go. Aye, well, it's not over yet. It's not over yet. So that'll spread through the stadium, which then can lead onto the. And we've seen it. We've seen it. I watched the game on Wednesday night. Phil, I was speaking to you while it was on, and I kept quiet until the game had finished. And I said, I don't think this team handle the pressure, not put on by themselves, but put on by their fans. They can't hack it.
Definitely.
I wanted to keep quiet until I knew the game was over because I just was I end up getting their goal, but they didn't. And if that's their fans' narrative that that's just gave up now, then that's just that'll spread onto the pitch, and the doubt will sink in to the players that once again they've fucked it, they've balled it. So I'm hoping that's the case. Just before we sign off, just before we go, there's one particular client of mine that's he's a proper diehard Blue Nose, and I hadn't seen him for weeks. He'd actually been booking him with one of the other barbers to avoid speaking to me. And as soon as he'd gone back top of the league, he'd booked back in, and I said that to him. I was like, you have not been in my chair for weeks, and as soon as you went top, you're back in my chair. Well, did I know? I got him a belter yesterday, Phil. I got him a belter. So obviously, So for those of you that don't know, my shop's very much kind of styled in like a very old school style, 1920s. So you're not going to hear much modern music in the shop, okay? So I'm through the backs, through the other barbers to the back, and there's two of them cutting here. This guy comes in the shop, he sits on the waiting bench, and I get the iPad out, and I put on the the song "Feeling It" that they all play at Ibrox.
Yes.
So I put that over the speakers, full blast. My two barbers had no idea what was going on because they're not interested in football. And I come out, bust out the staff room door like I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin as soon as the beat drops, and I'm going.
Well, you look like Stone Cold Steve Austin right now.
That's it. To be fair, he took it very well. He was laughing his head off, and he's like, he goes, I heard that come on. I thought that can't be that song, and of course I'm just singing it in his face and giving him pelters for it.
I hear they were playing it at Dundee as well on Wednesday night. I believe they were playing that at full time.
They were, and that's why I thought I'm going to get him when he's in on Saturday. I got him good, but there's still plenty to play for.
It's in our hands, and that's
the faith.
Aye. Exactly. It's the improbable double still on the table, so it's there to be won. Celtic just need to find a way. As I said, I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I think we'll just find a way to just grind it out and get it done. Ideally, though, I'd love it if we just turned up and just battered every team from now to the end of the season. But I get a feeling that we're going to be proved. Put it this way, there'll be a lot more grey hairs on my chinny chin chin by the end of the season. Definitely, a few more grey hairs without a shadow of a doubt. Because watching this team this season's putting years on me. Honestly, it's tough. It's been a hell of a season. We're through the ringer this one, but. It's all on the line now. They know what they need to do. And say with cup football yesterday, all you can ask is that they get through. Goal difference doesn't matter. They got through by hook or by crook. And we've got a final to look forward to now at the end of May. And league title's still there to be won. So could be a hell of a finish to the season.
I want to ask the people in the chat and yourself, Phil, if we win this league, with the whole context of how the season's panned out and with the transfer windows and all the stuff, where does this rank for you if we win this league? Like, is it up there with one of the best, or has it just been one of those just thank fuck that one's over and we'll never talk about it ever again? Like, where does it rank for you?
For me personally, it will be, I would say, the latter, surprisingly, because it's not the way this season's went. Right, if we come away with 2 trophies, right, obviously the circumstances of it would be quite incredible, given at times we've looked bereft of confidence and bereft of momentum at points this season. So it would be quite an achievement in a way, but I would rather not speak of this season again. I would file it alongside, like when Gordon Strachan first came in and he won 2 trophies in his first season, the 05-06 season, which is a successful season, a title and a League Cup. So he's won 2 trophies, but it's one of the ones that nobody really looks back on with any great fondness. I feel like that this season will be filed alongside one like that, where we won 2 trophies at the end of it, but I would rather just no talk about the football, because like when Strachan's time, his second season and his third season are more reminisced about The second season, we won a double. We had a good run in the Champions League. The third season, we had that dramatic finish to the title race, having to win 7 out of 7, winning the league up at Tannadice on the last night of the season on a Thursday night. But I feel like this season we failed alongside the likes of Stratton's first season, where the football wasn't great. We did win 2 trophies. Great. We won it. We move on. Let's not go back and reminisce about some of this, because it was quite hard at times. But I've said this before on when I'm doing the Friday show. I feel from Brendan's point of view, though, I think Brendan will be he'll put this very high in his list of achievements if we pull this off. But for me personally, I just want to get this season done, hopefully get the trophies in the bag, and just move on and get ready for next season. And hopefully it is a massive turnaround in terms of recruitment and style of football. Watch this space.
Watch this space. Well, that's just went 2 minutes past 12. We've just gone over the hour. I have 208 of you watching us live. Appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for sticking with us. It's been a good show today, I felt. I mean, a wee mix-up of post-match pish and a bit of a Sunday blether at the end. There wasn't much news, gossip, and hearsay to talk about. We'll keep that for next time. But thanks for joining us. Thanks, Phil, for always joining me on a Sunday, and we shall see you next time. Take care, guys.
Yeah, catch you later, guys.